Alright, starting back up here. It's Sunday morning, 10:30 in the morning. Fairly a little bit foggy out. We got some fog this morning. It's kind of rolling out. The sun is poking out every now and then. It's mostly overcast. Kind of setting a bit of a mood here, which is nice. Um, my nose is feeling a little bit stuffed up. I'm not sure what. Probably, I guess, 2 weeks of stress, you could say. Even for 3 weeks, I've been trying to fight something to stop it from starting, and so far it has not. I have not gotten sick, which is nice. A bit of a high noise floor here. I'm beside the highway again. I'm in a Walmart complex parking lot, kind of overlooking the highway, pretty close to the highway. I've got a seagull outside the car, who's been hanging out for about 15-20 minutes while I finish my breakfast here. I looked both ways, made sure nobody was looking, no seagulls in particular. Threw him a few crumbs, so he's probably good little chunk there. He's probably feeling good. Something in his stomach there, starting to digest, I'm sure. Get the sugars flowing through the blood. But anyways, it's I'm kind of doing the usual kind of bit of a battle before going to express, because I know once I start, I'm not going to stop. I shouldn't stop. I should just keep going and recording and going through all of these thoughts that I have, all these things to talk about and points to get across, and so far this expression has been just amazing and fulfilling for me. I just think of all the things that I've been able to articulate that somebody else, that others, that I'm able to share with others, and hopefully do something with this expression. Use it for bootstrapping of the guild. We have here, so what this media expression is amounting to is part of the Guild Environment Creation Kit, or also known as GEC, which is kind of a bit of a mystical collection of artifacts, which can enable one to bootstrap a guild environment and just allow that to unfold into their social, into their environment, and raise up the guild among peers. So that's obviously really important work. I just have been kind of thinking about all the suffering going on in the world, and just how insane it is that, and incredible, when we finally do come to the end of ourself, to the end of all the stress and just overwork and just killing ourselves and wondering and suffering, what is all this life for? When we come to the end of that, we finally, the mind gives up its absolute control, and the body starts to assert itself, and just because of it's giving us this pain, it's making us feel bad, because the mind ultimately is not in any kind of harmony whatsoever with the body, and eventually we can't take it anymore. It's a straight fact. This is what's pushing people over the edge, greatly, even in the last decade. Suicides increasing, feelings of depression increasing, clinical cases, just people going absolutely mad and nuts. Not only this, but I believe that in the scientific communities, including of course, psychology, and just understanding the sciences, which are understanding life itself, the experience of life, consciousness, all this kind of stuff. Second order cybernetics. So the science is beginning to realize, kind of, it feels like there's a heavy irony in this, that science has always tried to make complete objective experiments with with objectively factuous results, and just imagining that there's this perfect playground which is never tainted by any kind of observer. And this is a clear cut pointer towards that mind-body disconnect, as if we can somehow take the body out of the equation and just be completely idealistic and abstract and disembodied in our way of approaching nature, in our way of doing science, in our way of doing life and living. And so I find it really interesting that the culture is starting to turn around as well, I believe, getting into this the postmodern turn, and just the kind of cultural awareness, the general widespread cultural awareness, it seems that at least that I've been encountering, of the relativism, the relativity of meaning, and the individual's perspective on meaning, and how that we each kind of have our own. And of course, as I've said before, the way that this has been exploited to keep the lid on the participant society paradigm has been to prevent at all costs that real self-reference, which provides a direction in that sea of relativity, of sea of meaninglessness. The fact that even the statement "everything is meaningless" is full of meaning, has a ton of meaning, and only could be stated and interpreted inside these life forms, this machinic mind in some ways, to interpret and register that, what that actually means, and to look at the connection of who said it and why did they say that to me, and we just bounce the meaning bounces all around in this conscious perception, and that's our subjective experience, which has been tried to quash, to put down, to keep out of sight. And of course, anybody with any kind of mystical sort of experience, or experience of their self sort of popping out of the matrix, they are typically sidelined, relegated, considered as damaged goods, because of course that comes with a sort of inherent rebellion in it, because the body is starting to speak back out through the mind and out through this individual. The body is mattering to this person. They are experiencing their own suffering in such an acute way that they cannot continue on doing what they're doing, and they're trying to reach out to others, and reach out and into the subjective experience of others, and ask, are you seeing this right now? Are you seeing what's happening? Do you realize what's happening in your life? Do you see how out of control this is? Do you see that we are unconsciously shuffling through life with these crazy ideas, and just this sort of magical manipulation of our will, as I was referring to the various myths that we believe in, such as which this type of magical thinking is absolutely necessary for maintaining faith in something that we totally don't understand. Stuff like the myth of the invisible hand of the market, that it's always gonna somehow magically balance things out, and always get the best, lowest price for products as we consume. And of course, if we think hard enough about this, we realize that it's really the profit motive at play here, and that it's not actually that price is not the most important thing about a particular commodity that we're consuming. There are all kinds of constraints that the body presents, which these commodities are in very many cases totally breaching those constraints, not caring, and simply representing the appearance of it being the thing that we want, and of course by our by this the cognitive discrepancy being exploited in this way that we believe that that every, in a very shallow sense, in a very simplistic sense, we pretty much believe that every product that claims to be a thing, no matter what the process of it, as long as it looks like the thing, it is the thing. So, and of course we complain about buying the cheap stuff that falls apart. Within a year or two, it's gone, it's fallen apart, it's breaking down. And of course, this is part of the design engineered obsolescence. We have all kinds of just crazy things built into our products that are designed to cause a dependence, a constant dependency on those corporations which are exploiting the need, exploiting the demand, and even trying to create more demand, never trying to actually solve problems permanently. Any company that solves problems permanently goes out of business. So just pointing out how the invisible hand of the market is as an example of something we say, okay, we're getting the best of the best, and this is the invisible hand is taking care of everything, and that falls apart as quickly as the products that it provides as an argument. And just pointing at the magical type of thinking that we actually engage in without having any kind of fact, or without thinking deeply into anything too much to realize that these are mere myths which hold society together as it is, this participant society. So many crutches and clutches necessary to cause us to be complacent and satisfied in this type of a life in which all of our organs have been harvested, and all of our responsibilities mediated away, and we become extremely specialized in only one area of focus, while losing sight of the complete rest of the body. Therefore, as participants, or as member, okay, I don't want to confuse the model terms there. So as people in society, we simply have no ability or no frame of reference really to make smart selections of products. Not only we don't know what the constraints that are being that need to be sustained or maintained or satisfied, but we have no idea how even these products were made. It's simply the processes are not are done intentionally in secret, so that it's not known what corners are being cut, to as far a limit as possible within the law, and even outside of the law. Of course, companies that break the law are going to be selected for. Companies with deceptions built in, companies with ways who have discovered ways of getting around the law, around the spirit of the law, while still maintaining the appearance of the law. And this, of course, is the continual and ever-present problem of law itself, that it's always only ever an approximation. It's never the thing itself that one would try to point to. It's a participant degree of coherence, way of approximating life. So I'm really trying to point at the kind of mechanisms or mechanics behind the spectacular or representation-based society, this what I've been calling participant society. I think I've probably gone through what I wanted to talk about regarding just kind of like the origins, the Alphabetica stuff. So, in particular, the Great Axial War. This point of kind of departure that was caused by the externalization of meaning via the alphabet technology, as well as stuff like paper. The ability to externalize our symbol on a massive scale, especially with the printing press, that kind of kicked it into an even further high gear. But even just with basic manuscripts and manual writing, we definitely had a total shift in culture, and things just started to slip away out of control, and we had some, I'm sure, like honest intents, many honest intentions paved the road to hell. And so I'm sure that many people were trying and thinking of ways that they could use instruction to try and help and to guide and to keep the culture at least generational and viable and healthy. And so we really went into a sort of law-based culture, I think. And this is the foundation of a participant culture, where you follow these approximations and maybe never quite understanding them, but trying to follow them. And of course they fail at the edges. There's always ways around law while breaking the spirit of the law, while still following the appearance of the law, etc. And law in this way could expand outwards forever, indefinitely, and life will still find a way to exploit and a way around it. This is just an illumination of the problem itself, that really there's something more, there's something deeper to being able to navigate life, and it's not simply about following instructions as if you're a computer, as if you yourself are a machine. And this is again so alluding to the necessity of membership in a society, and this is where the depths of the law become understood, and it's no longer necessary to try and represent the law, to represent as if your behavior is in accordance with the law. It's no longer necessary, and in fact, the hypocritical nature that comes out of that by necessity necessarily does come out of that, from that lack of true deep understanding, that the membership is the only way to actually address that problem of hypocrisy and the problem of stagnation in the law, of stopping the growth, stopping the change, the adaptation, the getting better, this force of life to draw order into itself, the negentropic function. This inevitably leads, if followed to its conclusion, to membership and through to mastery, etc. And so this is the journey of increasing coherence, upon which we must all eventually be reminded of by life, by the universe, by God, by whatever you want to say. The wrath of God, we are under God's wrath when we are under the law, and we don't even know why. Even if our intentions are good, we're still going to be heavily under wrath until that moment of rebirth, of spiritual rebirth, in which case we will at last be able to come into a more harmony, into a communion with God. In other words, that the great schism is healed within the individual, that separation of mind and body. We finally have a context from which to draw our meaning. And we also, by connecting with ourselves and ceasing this denial of our own self and our own feelings, the mind is no longer telling our own body, like, get your shit together. Like, everyone else is doing okay, they're doing fine, you can do fine as well. You just get up and go to work again, even though you've only had 4 hours of sleep. Just go and do it, or you're gonna die. You're gonna lose your apartment, you're gonna lose everything, all your friends will be gone. All this crap that the mind just keeps going through, like just a basic machine. This disconnection, this lording over your own body, your own mind lording over your own body, and of course, this is the root of alienation. First off, between ourself and our body, or so our mind and our body, we have this sympathetic at best response. We are not even empathizing with our own self. If you can imagine that, we're not even, our own mind is not even having an empathy for our own body. How insane is that? And yet we're having these experiences of grief, of this alienation, this disconnection, this continual trauma, not only with ourselves but with others. And so when we awaken out of this, when the mind gives up this, when the body when the body can't take it any longer, when the suffering is too much, the body finds a weird, strange ways to come into the mind and to make its presence known. And this is basically that moment, like, I cannot take this anymore. I cannot do it. I'm not going to do it. Whatever. I don't care what the forces are of society. I don't care what's going to happen to me. I don't care who's going to guilt and shame me or what. I don't give a shit how I have to explain this to anybody. I am making a change in my life. I am feeling a fracture, a great fracture in this whole structure of mind which has been set up for me by society. A great rift in the ice field, a giant crack has gone through, and things are starting to break up, and I don't even give a shit anymore what the mind is telling me. The body is here. I have a body. I am a body. I need to take care of my body. This is enough trauma, enough stress. I've had enough of it, etc. So this is just I'm giving expression to how the body can feel and assert itself. And when that happens, we feel for others as well. So when the great schism is healed within ourselves, when the structures of the mind, its foundations crumble and crack, and you go into free fall, into this pure potentiality, so we connect our own body to our own mind, and we can feel empathy for ourselves and our own condition, and imagine, like, what have I put you through? Is this worth it? Is this society the way that it should be? And then, of course, there's the struggle of sticking your head up and looking around and seeing that everyone else is still whipping themselves as if their head's been chopped off and outstretched by a mechanical lever hooked up with perhaps some kind of arm mechanism holding a whip. and the head is looking angrily down at the body, whipping it as it goes through and does life. So that being repaired, we're now sticking our head up and looking around at all these people with that are just completely walking through life disconnected from their own context, from their own body. And we have this great empathy, great compassion. This is the awakening and the unleashing of compassion, and that how our own body cried out for our own sake, for its own sake. Our body cried out so hard that the mind heard, and the mind snapped, and something new has come up, and a new life is emerging out of this extremely high entropy state, extremely chaotic, extremely disordered, uncaring, unable to care, not having the any knowledge of its own organs, of that which sustains its own life. And so we're looking at these people all around us who are part of our organs, who we have externalized our organs to, and they themselves are doing the same, and they are not even aware of what they're doing, and they are representing GovCorp organization, and these are our organs. We're looking around at people who are making our food for us, people who are doing all kinds of work on infrastructure and just everything out of society. It's all this whipping, the mind whipping the body, and we see this. We have great compassion for all the others and for the suffering, and for that breaking point that we felt, the insane level of suffering that we've felt. And this is the unfolding and unleashing of compassion, that feeling, because we have now reconciled to our own body, and therefore in a social context we realize that also there are so many other bodies, these sort of subjective locuses of experience, of awareness, of perception. We have others. We have so many other human beings all around us who also were born up and raised, who were babies, who had the experiences going through the life, who had all of their organs harvested as well, who were beaten down, who had this sense of wonder beaten out of them, this potential for communion between mind and body erased, their future erased with it. And we see this mass of suffering, and we look at them, at some of them who are waking up and trying to fix it through political type of aspirations, and through there's more of these mind games, and just the interfacing with each other through these harvested organs, these completely emptied out organs, that the appearance and representation of participating in society on a governance level, as in voting. We're discussing and arguing with each other as if it even matters one shit who we vote for, as far as what is the real axis of healing our society. And that, as I hope I've illuminated here, has to do with the healing of the schism between the mind and the body, and the emergence of the membership society from within the participant society. So we are on a long road as humanity. This is the fall of humanity. Was basically and is the ongoing the war to begin and end all wars, the great axial war. This was the crusting of the APS, the crusting of our social APS, our collective abstract phase space, encouraged and facilitated by the externalization of memory, so permanent external records, causing this sort of crusting to accelerate and to cause an extreme danger in our technology that just allows this sort of the APS to crust up and just run away and unmoor from the experience of the body. So this is the breakaway civilization, the collective APS unmooring, becoming so advanced in its symbology and its ability to approximate life itself, outside of the body, and this is where the breakaway civilization has gone into and hidden amongst the crust of the absolute symbol diarrhea out into the environment. I can't even imagine how many, probably petabytes, terabytes, whatever, thousands of terabytes a day, definitely just transferring over the internet every single day. We have I don't know how many exabytes of storage right now in the network, and this is like basically permanent externalized memory, and it spreads out like a cancer. And so this is the fall of man, and as I explained before, getting into the cybernetics and stuff with Alphabetica, we have to create these sideband channels again. We have to connect together, Illuminati networking, to make sure that these externalizations of symbol also come in with them built-in hooks that the membership society has that ability to co-create these social systems, and has hooks and dashboard and facilities for updating and for changing and facilitating change, and for sensing and giving out, making sense making and sensing the environment from the perspective of the body, and then allowing that to rise up into the collective, into the social again, so that our membership has meaning in society, that what we do can have a great effect, and what we do feeds back into the order of society. So bringing order back into society, rather than this poverty of politics that we have right now, whereby we think that somehow a sliver of a skinny skeleton structure can somehow manage all of society from above. This is the infrastructure of the participant society, and it leaves us with an absolute poverty of dynamic ability to change and to sense the body. So this is the mind unmoored, and politics is a perfect example of how the mind is unmoored from the body, how civilization has broken away from our subjective meaning, how we just become crushed under the weight of these systems, that the externalization of meaning coming back at us and pressing down upon us, without any way of accepting our feedback. This is the crux of the participant society, and it's absolutely alienating, just in the way that we can even see that our own minds alienate our own body. This is so as above, so below, as below, so above. So with membership society, we have the potential to bring order back into, and to bring life, to bring that dynamic, that give and take dynamic of life itself back into the social. Never mind politics, never mind the black and white, left versus right crap. We have the ability to awaken to our own body, our own context, and to start healing everything around us. And if we can all do this, it will emerge into the social. And of course, I'm talking about wicked problems here. Wicked problems don't seem to have any kind of solution. And once you unfold one part, other parts unfold. And here I am thinking about the Great Axial War going into hot mode, which I think is being forced by the postmodern mindset, as well as stuff like second order cybernetics and beyond. This acknowledgement of the body, of the body in as a context, the subjective, that we can't ignore it, that it's actually part of something, that this dynamic is coming up. So when I think about that and just talking about the problems, of course, and as I mentioned, these participant society structures, such as GovCorp in its current form, are going to basically have to put their cards on the table and acknowledge themselves as evil, and rule with an iron fist. And these kind of things are, I think, gonna come out. We're just gonna see cycles again, more of despotism and all this kind of thing, and the suffering is going to increase until awareness improves, period. There's my seagull back again. I think he went for a little cruise around the neighborhood, but he's back. I don't have any more breakfast for him, so so where to go with this? I think we are done with the sort of Alphabetica section. Again, just as a recap, I'm going through a number of my own contexts, my own networks. So I'm speaking to, in these last few sections, I'm trying to really put the arc together through the strike point domain, making explicit and relevant, helping to assist that arc unfold for certain sort of specific proximity guilds that I participate in. So we were talking a lot about the church. We got into the meta religion. Then we got into the Great Axial War and the Alphabetica stuff, with the externalization of meaning and the birth of the problem of meaning. And now we're kind of getting into the sorcery of the spectacle. So just talking about the dynamics of society in a participant society, just how we navigate it by these simplistic categories. Everything is simple, so this is like the APS crusting in overdrive. We're taking politics and top-down imposition of order is taking that APS crusting into hyperdrive, and what we are doing is explicitly taking one model and just blanketing and just washing over so many people in so many situations, and expecting it to work. But of course, people are not at all engaged in any kind of feedback with this political governance apparatus. Any true kind of feedback, like on the ground feedback, sensing and suggesting better ways of doing the law, and even local law and that kind of stuff. We just have these vast approximations being applied over swaths of population. This is all that this kind of centralized oversimplification of life can ever do, is to and basically fail continuously and ceaselessly in this way, just because of the way that we are doing politics. We can see from ourselves we ourselves are not in any way engaged in this, aside from making a supposed choice presented to us between one of two parties, basically. It's always coming up to seemingly a left versus right dichotomy, and I'm going to get into that a bit more, just how hopeless and useless that is, and in fact how it's taking something that is not even separate and separating it against itself. So this is the idea of basically of liberty and freedom versus tradition. Liberty and freedom, of course, we have the left wing And this is the major dichotomy along which politics has been split, as if these two forces should be fighting each other. And again, we have the classic disembodiment, the classic schism. So we have this freedom into pure potentiality, especially accelerated by the postmodernism, the relativity of meaning, and as well as the individual perspective, that we all actually have this kind of sort of freedom built into us, that we have our own choices to make and our own experiences, and so in some ways we do need to take this further. We do need to realize our pure potentiality, and clearly, very importantly, also we need to find that narrow path of, and this is where the left misses out. This is the counterpart to pure potentiality, which is the potentiality of towards life, the potentiality of negentropy, the potentiality of order. So not simply destruction, but creativity is a huge responsibility, and not everything leads to the creation of life and further creativity. Not all things do. In fact, most of the paths that we can take lead to destruction, and this kind of points to the usefulness, I guess you could say, of tradition, because tradition maps out what has worked in the past, even though we want to transcend it. And again, we as left, as liberal minded beings, we have to keep in mind that what we're trying to do on the political, we have to do in our own mind as well. If we are trying to break out into freedom, break out into potentiality, throw away some of the old crusty apparatuses of society, we have to think about doing this in our own mind as well. And without realizing it, we are holding on to very, very, very destructive patterns, especially of identity. So identity politics is one obvious one. Just looking at how hard we are clinging to the formation of certain identities, and how we get triggered, and how we are actually using this in the same ways that religion, in their divisions, religious denominations or whatever, or different spiritual systems, how they're divided against each other. We are using identity politics to divide against each other. So in a way, this is a serious crusting. So we are having our own conservatism being built into our liberalism, in the way that we project against the right and hate the right for being so old and crusty. We as well are clinging to identity and separating all the ways, and just articulating an endless, infinite stream of all the ways that we are different from each other, and the ways that we need to so-called respect each other. And of course, just getting endlessly triggered by our crusty our crusty identities. So there's something much deeper that needs to be broken into in order to reconcile the left and right divide. And this is a bridging of the great schism between the mind and the body. The mind wants to tell the body what it is, that I am this, I am that, these are my identities, and the body is like, no, I'm unique. I have all kinds of constraints, and they are very similar to others, and we all actually share so many things in common. It's not about how we're divided. Shut up, mind, for a moment, and just listen to your heart. These are your brothers and sisters. Why are you finding every single way to get offended and to fight against each other? This is you are a foot soldier of the great axial war, and you are listening. You are not listening to your own body. You are subjugating it. You are um, you are actually objectifying your own body when you take up these identities and get offended and tell your body what it is and what it is not, and who its enemy is. This is the mind, the disembodied head, whipping the body through life and telling it what it is and what to do and what to believe. And of course, just listen to it. Just feel all the stress when you get triggered. How much pain do you feel? How upset do you get? Is this really a liberating experience for you to be representing your identity, to be presenting this image, this false image of yourself out to others in society? Is that really who you are? Does it feel good to do that, or does it feel bad to do that? So I hope I can keep going here. I'm about to maybe run out of batteries. I might have to run into the store at some point to get fresh batteries. I don't think I have any laying around. Thing is probably gonna die pretty soon. I've used probably about 10 AA batteries so far in the recording of this session. Just seeing if I have any devices or anything with that uses a battery. Perhaps. No, I don't think so. So anyways, we are heavily alienated from our own body, even and especially when we engage in identity politics. That's, I suppose, something to meditate on. So just looking at left-wing, right-wing politics while we're at it, it's as the mind does, and what only the mind can do, is have this oversimplification of reality and just ham-fist its little model over top of reality provided through the body. But of course, and this just pointing once again, the body has all the context. The mind and its models have no meaning whatsoever. They're just pie in the sky stuff until the rubber hits the road, and there is this negotiation, which must be a living dynamic between the mind and the body, between the so-called the inner and the outer worlds, that our inner model and our inner idea of what is real and what is true, and the objects and the types of objects that we navigate. This has to be always open for dynamic, for a dynamic relationship, and I guess I'm pointing again at the animistic sort of viewpoint where we don't simply overwrite reality with our model in our brain. But we are actively listening closely to everything outside in our environment, to everything that we sense through our body. We are listening closely to try and see if we can know it more. So see if we can come into an even deeper relationship with that thing by of course updating our models and making sure that we remain in this dynamic state, and not crusting over and not thinking that we have it figured out, which causes this tragedy of everything becoming alienated, and the mind just completely unmoored in its own prejudices and its own crust of its reality tunnel, which has been forged and shaped most often through trauma. Just everything becoming crusted up and fearing of everything, and not wanting to come into the new for fear of what could happen. And we alienate ourselves, we alienate others by having this kind of relationship with each other, this conditional love, this love at best which is conditional. So it may sound sad to tell somebody or to suggest to somebody that their love is being conditional, but look deep in your heart and think, are you really looking past all of your mind and what you think of this person, and just meeting them fresh and new as a new day, as a new start, fresh new start, or are you holding on to all kinds of past and holding on to all kinds of expectations? is your love truly free? Are you able to love unconditionally? And this can only be done when you learn how to love yourself, when you learn how to come into relationship with your own body. Only then can you stop this this slave mentality towards others, this alienated mentality, this conditional navigation of other living beings. Sun's coming out, it's quite nice. Still cold, but it looks like we got a nice patch of blue skies. Fog has lifted. Still maybe a little bit foggy, but it's pretty much lifted. People are just going about their business here, shopping. We've got all kinds of shops. Just interacting with their organs out here, satisfying their constraints. Always desiring, always needing, always propelled to activity, to economic activity, unable to stop. So at this point, I think I'll just quickly mention one idea I wanted to get in there was the Society of the Spectacle. This is the classic by Debord. He mentions in there a sort of progression of society, of civilization, through varying degrees of commodification of life. And so I mentioned 4 categories. I'm only aware of 3 here, and I'm not sure exactly how they line up. I haven't thought about it, but we had so we go from being, which is this sort of more natural state of communion between mind and body, and environment and the outside and society, where, of course, I'm going to assume or say that most, if not all, of your organs have not been harvested. However, many, of course, can certainly be externalized, can be help provided by friends and family and society at large. So the being part is that you're just doing life. You know that everything's going to be provided for you because you are taking care of the environment and you are being taken care of. There's not this death drive forcing you to shuffle through everywhere out of fear for all the things that you need, that ever desiring, never having, never satisfied. So being is sort of a state of continual satisfaction. It's more of a natural state. We're going to see much more of that, I suppose, before the Great Axial War and its effects, so before the so-called fall of man. And then so we go from being into having. So this is more, I think we're seeing the harvesting of the organs, and so it seems like more of a privilege to be able to sort and organize your life, to manage your life, to set up all of your organs in such a way that you are having all of these things that you need. In other words, you can have more of a mechanistic or categorical approach to the things you need, such as food and transportation and a house and having a bed and having this and having that, having a television, having this product. So going from being to having, your life sort of becomes a list of things that you need to satisfy living, and of course you get these things on the market, much of it as the organs have been harvested at this point. They're mediated by outside forces from which you are alienated. You have no interaction, no meaningful relationship, no two-way relationship, no sideband channel to update and communicate through. Simply, you give the money, you get the product type thing. So here we've gone from being into having to having these products, to being satisfied by the market, by all the swath of products and selection, and having the ability to go out and shop and just look around at all the things that can be provided to you. If you have money, if you have value to the society, then you'll have the things you need. And of course we go from being to having, and then from having to representing. And this, I think this is probably the last, I don't know, it just seems to me like the last 70 plus years, we've transitioned in from having to representing. So, and this is a factor of just the continual hollowing out of the organs. So as we lose our collective memory of what constraints, like our traditions kind of telling us what constraints, how to keep, so we're given protocols of how to maintain health, how to maintain all these constraints. As our collective memory of that goes away, slowly over time, our products can become more and more discoherent, more shitty, so to speak, breaching much more constraints, and we won't even know it, we won't even realize it until, of course, we get those the crisis of health. Things start breaking down, and that's when we'll realize, wow, these products are shitty. But in the meantime, we've forgotten all about these constraints. The traditions have gone, the traditional ways have gone, and all that we really need is a representing. So we have to, the products that, in order to sell a product, it merely has to represent the thing that it had, that we once had, the things that we had. So I mean, just as a quick example, of the appearance, like, you could have a fake fur coat or whatever, which in some ways ethically is better or fine, or works just as well. Who knows? You can have fake leather, which breaks down much easier, which isn't the actual product in itself. So you're not really having a clothing that you can depend on, that you can have for decades, and it still works. So what we once had, these things have become mere representations, which quickly fall apart and continue to just breach the constraints for which the original products that we at one time did have were intended to satisfy, and no longer satisfy with the representing. And of course, obviously in the case of spectacle, this mediation of social relations by image, as a quick sort of definition, one way that people take spectacle, or the spectacle, this is where we've really seen representation go, where I guess I can just easily point to some phenomena on social media whereby, of course, we have photoshopping of pictures to make people look better, to make them look like they have had healthy exercise and healthy diet and have had a healthy life, and they don't have wrinkles and all this kind of stuff. There's programs like Facetune. There's programs to make your waist look thinner, your butt bigger, your boobs bigger, to give you bigger muscles, to fix blemishes, erase all this kind of stuff. So we're being given products that actually don't even do the thing itself, but merely represent to others for the purpose of that reputation, so that our identity can be boosted up, so that we think that others think that we've got it going on, and of course the people providing the dopamine hits with their likes and their comments on how good we look and all this kind of stuff. It's just a totally fake representation of health, which is just a great example. People may go on vacations and post pictures of them in a relaxing setting on a beach or whatever, sun tanning. But meanwhile, they have not escaped the alienation, the domination of their mind over their own body. And while they're on vacation, they can't stop thinking about how they look, and if they're looking good enough, and if they're getting a better deal than everyone else, and their mind is just playing all these shitty games, and they can't even have a moment of peace and seclusion with a moment to relax. The mind keeps spinning. They're miserable. Yet you have this representation because they've paid to be shipped off across the other side of the world, into some place that looks good, that they can have this image of health and of wealth, as if they live on a beach side or something desirable. And so this is the representing stage, where the organs have been harvested and subsequently hollowed out. We don't even have the original so-called sort of like product. We don't have the original product which satisfied. Everything has gone hollowed out and downhill because the constraints are unhinged. The actual constraints here are profit motive, the necessity for a corporation to continue to be viable economically. Therefore, it must be exploiting everything, and this being the basis of our society is why everything gets hollowed out into representation as our organs are harvested and subsequently completely abused behind closed doors in secret, mediated away from us, and so that we have no idea how it's done for us on our behalf. We are simply providing money for it to be done, whether it's involving slave type labor conditions, or exploitation of the environment, destruction of the environment, destruction of animals. And so this disconnection between us and our organs is really the reason why we can, as a society, be so careless. And there is no political solution to this. There is no way that you can fix a company by law to make it better. Because again, there will always, the most profitable companies, the ones that stay around, will be the ones that figure out how to get around this and how to continue externalizing their costs onto the environment. And so again, I bring up the wicked problem concept, the solutions to environmental concerns, whatever, political concerns, concerns about poverty, whatever your concern around the world, whatever you're feeling guilty about or seeing that's wrong in the world, just know that there is no political solution. There is nothing that you can throw your money at to fix this. It is a wicked set of problems. They are all originating around this, the Great Axial War, in other words, the fall of man. This is why it's always been a spiritual problem. Nothing will ever fix this except the healing of the great schism between the mind and the body. This is something that needs to be done both individually and collectively. So, in other words, once you fix yourself, only then and only then can you become part of the solution. Only then can you start recommuning with your context, with your environment, with everything around you. Only then can you start interacting with it in a format of respect. This is just quickly getting back to the animistic concept that we need to have a relationship with everything around us, and not a one-way relationship that our mind tries to project its reality onto, much how our participant society projects its reality onto our bodies and subjects us. This is the root cause of all alienation. There is no way around it except for each of us to do the work of insight, to finally come to the end of ourselves, to have enough and be fed up with this alienation and this shitty way that we are treating ourselves and being exploited, and all the excess of our labor is being siphoned off by corporation. Needless to say, we could be much better off if we cooperate directly in the context of a membership society in which our resources are being locally taken care of and used at maximum efficiency and maximum dynamism with the environment around us. Never mind these stopgap measures of law-based approach, participant approach to barely try to satisfy society and try to keep things barely together. We need to sort of transcend the participant society into the membership society. It's ongoing. This is not. I'm not describing something new. This is ongoing. I'm giving words and symbol and structure to this process as I see it, to the problems and constraints as I see them. And so, of course, fix yourself before you fix the world. But then, when you actually do fix yourself, when you heal the schism, it does not stop there. It flows outwards. Your relationships begin to heal through time. Of course, there are great challenges going on, but over time, we are able to move from membership, of course, into mastery and really start to intentionally fix and heal our environment and create real meaningful relationships amongst each other and start to work together in the context of the guild, in the context of the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven on earth, whatever way you want to look at it. This is the membership society, which is emerging, which is in some ways making a comeback. But of course, we've had to go through this massive stumbling block, you could call it, of the externalization of meaning. We have had to go through it, and this is something that we cannot go around. This whole symbol mess of symbol and of mess of meaning, which has been externalized. We have to create the nuance in that, the nuance in the noosphere, to be able to, which acknowledges the full perspective of the subjective individual, and makes the meaningful connections between mind and body. So these side channels, these have to become part of the meaning and part of the systems, part of the processes that we as a society follow, because the subjective is a constraint, that the body provides constraints, and we need to reconnect with this and remoor, so to speak, civilization with the body. This is the greatest challenge that probably humanity will ever face. This is a greater challenge than say landing on the moon or anything such like that. This is the most wicked problem you could ever imagine, the most wicked set of problems, and certainly, as I said, the unfolding of the emergence of the membership society is going to come with it massive shocks and reverberations of systems of power and the way that they are holding on to and trying to strong arm and keep going the way that they are going. And this is the way. These are the kind of systems, these interrelated systems, which have been keeping balance and keeping order in society. And we have to have an attitude of gratitude and thankfulness that we've been chauffeured, so to speak, by the elite, you could say, to get us this far. But now we have to all work together to kind of forgive each other and to allow this untrapping of the body from the mind, from the collective mind, and even to realize that those elites, so-called elites, have felt just as trapped as we are in some ways, felt just as helpless because because of, if you take a look at this strike point that I've put together, The problems are wicked, and even if somebody climbs up the political ladder with good intentions, as I'm sure many do, I'm sure many do not have those good intentions, but either way, we are driven like machines through this society, and of course trauma has shaped us, and we have to be willing to forgive each other and give grace over law, because the law is never perfect and it never can be followed, and it's really a stopgap measure to protect us and keep us safe until we're ready for membership. And we certainly are now ready for membership as a society. We need to share this with each other, share the meta society with each other, aka meta organization, meta religion, meta narrative, depending on context, how you want to call it, and make this known, make our inner worlds known to each other, reverse this alienation process, and part of which is that law, the justice by law. Of course, transitionary measures are transitionary periods are difficult, and I'm not saying we should not, or we should abandon law or anything of the sort. I believe that people are going to have to be brought to justice, but just keeping in mind there is so much more to this, and so deep, that so many of these so-called perpetrators will never be known. They'll never be known as the perpetrators. They'll never be caught. We have to drop the notions of actually exacting our own earthly justice on this. This is where we must leave it up to God, so to speak, that these people will suffer for what they've done, and hopefully they will transcend and be reborn out of that experience, and come to a full repentance and changing of mind, and a renewing of life, a coming together of the mind and body. In other words, the Holy Spirit coming to them. Nobody is beyond this salvation, and this is the message of grace and the message of forgiveness given to us by God, and the message of Jesus Christ dying on the cross as a sacrifice, taking all of our sin upon him, that we may forgive and start to unwind this guilt, this shame, this law approach, the intertwining of the machine, and we need to forgive ourselves, forgive others, and move on. And only in this kind of a freedom is there even space for the Spirit to move. We cannot be concerned with trying to gain justice, with going over the past. This is something that we need to move forward on. We need to not get stuck or discouraged by anybody saying anything negative to us or about what's going on. So massive change, massive problem. This is something that society needs to go through. This has been baked into the cake since the fall of man, since the beginnings of the war to begin and end all wars. And we need to end that war. That war needs to be ended. It can be ended. It certainly can be ended. Again, there are challenges, and we have to sort of go through, and there's we have to go through our technological progress and advancement. We cannot turn the pages back. We cannot go back to a primitive time in the way that some people kind of idealize the past. No, we need to go. We need to take everything that we have gained and learned all along the way and use it to the maximum, in order to reinforce, to establish and reinforce the membership society in a very outwardly and a known way. So this has to become again, this is emerging as the so-called hot section or segment of the Great Axial War. It's going hot with the kind of latest advancements in science finally coming back to the body. Through the Enlightenment period, it tried to completely reject the body. It tried to put itself against religion. And in fact, religion was always against the body too, in most of its in practice of how it evolved. And so science was merely a refinement, a sort of secularization of this great schism instituted by a religious organization. No matter how the prophets, how the saints tried to point towards the truth, you really need that experience in yourself to see it. It's not a matter of learning all the scriptures. Guidance really helps. Even God coming to earth in the form of a man and providing the example which we can follow, even that was I mean, I don't want to say not good enough, because this whole thing is unfolding, and certainly if we look to Christ as our example, we don't need to worry necessarily what exactly the scriptures are saying. Think of who God was on earth, and are you living up are you discipling, are you making disciples of yourself? Are you a disciple? Are you on the journey of increasing coherence? And are you committed to discipling others and to spreading this? So I mean, there's no other way around it. That is the core. That is the key of it. To resolving this darkest episode of life on Earth, the fall of man, the war to begin and end all wars. We need to end it, but it's going hot now, and I think the faster that we gain a collective insight into this and learn how to work together, and work together at the kind of at higher coherence degrees, and acknowledge that there is this spirit working in more concretely in some of us who have been absolutely reborn and completely transformed by the Spirit, and remain guided and directed and convicted at all times by that Spirit, by this communion between mind and body, this context as if we popped out of the Matrix. Those of us who see this, so in other words, the membership civilization, the membership society needs to come together intentionally and start to very, very carefully and intentionally think about and strategically, how can we bring people into membership? How can we make disciples of the world? How can we do this? And let us strengthen each other and tell each other the stories of our struggles, of being reborn into this, and seeing the world as it is, and seeing all the pain and suffering, and having our spirit cry out. Let us share this with each other. Let us encourage one another that we are not alone. Let us not wander for years on our own. Let us not be popping out of this matrix, so to speak, and having nobody around to acknowledge that. There is a spiritual awakening happening right now. It's going the wrong way in many ways. Again, as I said, the problem with the New Age is that it's largely a breaking free into the pure potentiality, largely in ignorance of the narrow path of life. So, in other words, the journey of increasing coherence, that part seems to be conveniently forgotten in many cases, and simply a sort of vain types of behaviors and activities go on. There's just a wasp trying to get into the car for some reason. I don't know what's so fascinating. about the inside of my car. But anyways, so yeah, we need to gather together. We need to make this very intentional. We need to bring this out into the open. It is being brought out into the open again, as I said. This is the hot phase of the Great Axial War. We are going to see, I believe, even declarations of evil, even boasting of evil. Just the knowledge that it finally coming to the collective consciousness of the people in society, that we can see how alienated we have become by the GovCorp structures, and that Iron Fist provides order. The participation society has protected us, so to speak, kept us ready, kept us safe. Same as so the people of Israel, so to speak, being given the commandments, the law, all the various laws that they have to follow. But thank God for His grace, that He sent His Son, the Messiah, and that we are invited into communion with God, that the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, has been unleashed and sent to us, and that we are essentially being given the keys to the kingdom. This is a very dangerous thing, obviously, but if we do not take up our responsibility, take up these keys and start to utilize them, in other words, utilize the mind-body connection to heal our body, our collective body, to heal everything, to embark and sustain that journey of increasing coherence. If we do not do that, our society will continue on its path of decay. There will be nothing to renew and regenerate society, and we have been operating on bought time. We are far into overtime of this, and we are essentially riding on the grace provided to us by our ancestors and all that's been built up into this society. But the way that things are running, the way that we're doing it so carelessly, is leading to an increase in destruction, in chaotic destruction, and really we're going to be pushed further into this participatory society, even outright. I don't know if you would call it. Could it get any worse? Of course, it can always get worse. I'm just off the top of my head thinking or theorizing, like perhaps a complete slave-based society in which you are absolutely alienated and not even asked to participate, so to speak. I don't know if that's even a level below, if that's guest level or something like that. I don't know, because you're still in a way participating. You are being fed, type of thing. Like the body has to be sustained at its bare minimum. But yeah, suffice to say, it could get worse. Things could get worse, and they certainly will, if we do not bring the rejuvenating life force back into our own life and into our own collective society. And wow, we're at an hour and a half already. It's 12 o'clock. Interesting. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So I didn't even get into really much specifics of the sorcery of the spectacle yet. I feel like my batteries are gonna run out probably right away. I think I'm gonna pop into the old Walmart here. Maybe grab a couple more batteries. Take a washroom break. All that kind of stuff. And probably carry on. I don't know if I'll carry on right away. I might. I was planning to visit my grandma today, so I might do that. And either way, I know I have at least, probably, it could even be a few more hours. I can't believe how long this thing is going on. We're probably on hour 25, 26 right now. but I feel like I'm on the home stretch, and I really intend to and feel I need to finish this recording expression, this media expression piece, this part of the piece, I guess you could say. I need to finish it today because I need to focus again, to get back into focus on my life around me. This is a problem, and this is a sacrifice of mania. I can't really help it but to just kind of go full drive. And of course, so in the past 2 weeks I've done, so what is it now, 26 hours of recording. It's going to be almost 30 hours of recording, I'm assuming, just in 2 weeks alone. So divide that up. So 2 weeks, 14 days, so at least 2 hours a day. If I was doing this every day, it would be 2 hours a day, which is that's pretty insane. I mean, again, I'm incredibly satisfied and happy and thankful that I could get this all out, and I'm just amazed at the extent to which I have to kind of express here to feel like certain topics have been exhausted. And I'm feeling really excited to get feedback from the community and to start to post and publish little parts of this and get the program running with the community. Hopefully, can get some community help to process this and start setting up protocols for processing, and make something even more collectively meaningful, and hopefully again into some kind of book product. Just a note on the unfolding of this program. So I'm going to have a number of documents published, kind of allowing edits, so allowing people to edit and change it. These documents I had written down, I guess. Okay, so just to get through quickly, probably I'll put my clips on either SoundCloud or YouTube. And most of them are about an hour long, maybe an hour and a half. Some of them are up to, I think, 3.5 hours long. So that's a little bit intense. I might just leave it as is and say screw it, or I might split that one in two or three, even maybe probably two, just so that it's easier to find your place when you're going through all of these. If anybody chooses to listen to the clips from start to finish. So what I want to have is an order, a playlist or whatever of the ordered clips with links, each clip linking to its transcript. I want to have a transcript that's basically just the transcript itself. So one document for just straight transcripts. One document for material which will comprise the book, so I'll be able to grab and clip out of those transcripts which materials I think are best going to be suited for the book. I may or may not keep the arc as I presented it. I think so. I think that's how the strike point is probably going to work. Just starting at the beginning and just flowing through as it is, and I hope that the book takes this form too. I was kind of thinking that I might be able to put some of this stuff at the end just because it's so great in the beginning, but probably not, because its full context won't be grasped without a lot of the guild dynamics stuff that I went into, deck protocol and whatnot. That I think kind of gives it more of a grounding, a sort of real sense of direction of why I'm even talking about all this stuff. It's because there is something to do about it, and I am doing something about it, and the fact that you are reading or hearing this right now is proof of that I have a plan and an idea. This is not me simply spinning my wheels, but I fully expect to be able to publish and share this, and to use it directly for bootstrapping material in my own various networks. So this is most relevant to, as from my perspective, what I can understand, to those all around me in the various contexts that I relate to people, and hopefully that translates out to also being relevant to for other people in other contexts. But that can always be developed. Right now I'm focusing on a kind of very concrete bootstrap through my own network. This is the most concrete way that I can think of doing that. So one document to comprise the book itself, to put the book together. Another document for this media expression project itself. So we're going to have the overall program of what's going on, how I expect and hope that people may be able to help with that. Various protocols for example, skimming through the transcripts. For example, like a protocol for fixing spelling mistakes. I don't know if the bot or whoever or whatever system will probably not make spelling mistakes based on how it's working, but mistranslations or mistranscriptions, so words that don't make sense. If it rhymes with a word that does make sense and you're pretty sure that that's the word that it should be, then this protocol says that so the constraint is that the thing should make sense, and this protocol is helping it to do so by correcting basic mistakes made by the transcription bot. Yeah, so that's just an example of basic protocols that I hope people may utilize to go through. Another thing, probably along the lines of the same constraint, another protocol here for if I ever don't seem to finish a thought, or if I just pause and stop and without finishing a thought, somehow I need to mark that and probably finish the thought maybe in parentheses or on my own, or if I'm taking that part and copying it into the book, it will need to be made into a complete thought, so to speak. So this is just the constraint of the document, or the expression making sense to people, making more sense. And so because it's not perfect when I talk, and I'm not always talking, sometimes I forget where I was going with something. So for this reason, we may need certain specific protocols to take care of the various ways that things could be lost or screwed up in translation. And that's just to give an idea. So this will be the media expression October 2019 project document, the kind of master document for how to participate, how to help. Also linking out to the other documents, the protocols. Then we'll have a fourth document so far that I've thought up of, which will have the kind of derivative data. I'm hoping that apparently some of the services that you can use, I believe you have to pay for it, but they provide stuff like word clouds. So I'm hoping that each session, each recording session, will have its own word cloud, and then hopefully I can kind of put all these word clouds together into a master word cloud somehow, or maybe manually select that out. And I probably have already talked about that, I believe. One of the things that I want to do is just create that sort of web of meaning. I believe I already went over a couple different formats. One is a more abstract, idealized form of that web of meaning. The other is the web of meaning through time. So as in describing the unfolding of this strike point domain, and just through time the various topics that have popped up. So some kind of like either left to right linearity to the popping up of ideas, and maybe some different ways of showing their connections with each other. Either the abstract connections as well as perhaps the sort of narrative, the concrete way in which over time I've connected the ideas. So all kinds of derivative data, as well as charts. So this is going to be another document for any kind of charts that I want to include in this, of which there are many, and probably I still think I'm going to end up, just because of the absolute coherence of the charts. They are concrete representations of just the work that Jenny and I have been doing over the past couple years with Portal Mountain. They are very, very great concentrations, even milestones, you could say, of the work that we've been doing. And so I do certainly want to pull up one chart at a time, and just figure out what order I want to talk about these charts, pull them up one at a time, and just go into detail about what it means and how to use it and what its significance is. I think that'll be a very powerful way to kind of pull things together, tie them together, and for people who are more visual oriented, or who want to see the abstractions laid out in kind of chart form and see the relations, that will be a great way to probably, I'm assuming, end the book, like have that in probably the end, near the end section. But again, I'm very happy, very glad about the amount of content I've been able to generate here. We're at probably about 600 or 700 pages of, if we're talking a standard book. I want this book to be ideally half of that, so probably going to get rid of more than half of this expression, and just, although most of it, a lot of it's really good, and of course I will still publish the full transcripts and make available this as sort of an audio book of the transcripts, I suppose. Even so, I would like to respect and honor the reader as much as possible by condensing things down to their kind of core meanings, while still sustaining this. I like the idea of the aesthetic of on the fly sort of speaking this book into existence. So I like the format of the fact that what I'm doing is executing a protocol, and that I'm not just writing another book as people would in sort of an abstract sense, but I like to give this whole expression that sense of time and place, that I've been here and there on my balcony, that I've been struggling each time to press the record button, that I've been just hammering out one expression after another of all these things that I've been thinking about and mulling over and just putting together and accumulating over the last couple of years since my last writing project. Which reminds me, I was going to go through and somehow incorporate some of my previous writings, and I believe the way that I'll do that, I don't think I'm going to talk about them per se, but I think I will read through them and manually select out passages from my previous writings, from any of my previous writings, and just find those parts that seem relevant, and maybe just insert them here and there as kind of quotes from previous writings, and how they line up, especially showing maybe how my thought process has changed, and especially pulling together just past really revelatory type of passages or statements that I've made, just the statements that I've just loved to express and to read over and over again, from the past of my writing. I'd like to just bring some of that forward into this, and just hopefully help round out some of the context of the work, and round out this media expression piece. So that's about it for that portion. I still haven't gotten hard into the Sorcery of the Spectacle, but we've been kind of on the edge between the Alphabetica stuff, the Great Axial War, as well as kind of getting into politics. This is kind of the stuff I wanted to talk about with the Sorcery of the Spectacle, the left-right divide. How this is an example of behavior which has been exploited, behavior caused by an exploitation of the cognitive discrepancy, which again, as I've described, is an evolutionarily advantageous nature of the mind to sort of present this smooth reality, and to make us so that we're not questioning things like when a lion attacks, or an animal, a predator out of the bush. We're not sitting there thinking, is this a lion that I have always known? Is this a unique lion? Perhaps this lion is not like other lions. Perhaps this is a friendly lion. Getting into the pure potentiality and allowing that communion with nature and that possibility. No, you don't do this when literally you're about to die. So you think very fast, very quickly. utilizing this so this shifted triad, the cognitive triad being shifted up out into the shared space, forgetting about this dynamic between the abstract and the concrete for a moment, and suddenly just everything is so your abstract is your reality. That is your most fundamental reality. Never mind how it can be changed or shifted. And this is the way that we operate in very quick ways to make quick decisions. And I'm just wondering, I've heard it brought up a couple times. This might be, we might be right here talking about System 1 and System 2 thinking. So thinking fast and thinking slow. That's a book which brings this up, and so thinking one is, or System 1, I believe is the fast thought, and I think this has been related to mythological type thinking, and System 2 being the more methodical and the meditative, the contemplative, allowing this slow communion, this respect for the world, for the outside, so we're not overriding it with quick snap decisions, but we're taking time to have a relationship with those things which we are sensing through the body, which are right in front of us, so to speak. And so this, in its pure form, I suppose, in its most isomorphic form, is that ability to shift the cognitive discrepancy window and to gain deeper insight and deeper relationship with our deeper communion between the inner and the outer. So that's getting into sorcery of the spectacle, how the cognitive discrepancy has been exploited. I think I've really gone over kind of how the priest class emerged. Again, I'm not really interested so much in specifics, historical fact, but just the fact that we can see that this did happen, and that we can find evidence for it by analyzing and looking at our own perception of reality. It's there for all to see, and again, we can see and find evidence of people popping out of the matrix, so to speak, and into that membership. So popping into membership, it's a fact of things that are happening. It's a fact of what's happening. So we can be confident in this, that this is a useful way to look at it, that religion has largely gone into this participation to use the biblical analogy or metaphor, to protect by law, with the law, to protect people by simply telling them what to do, that we tell each other what to do. And of course, this simplistic approximation of reality is not reality itself, so to speak. And if we are to bring life and bring order and indeed to bring the Holy Spirit of God back into our civilizations, this is the only thing that will really save us from the impending decay, from being another planet that simply couldn't handle the externalization of meaning, the symbolic externalization into the environment, simply caused too much of a positive feedback loop onto the collective APS, and thereby this extreme alienation, and this is not the way that we want to go. Later on, I'll be getting into critical activism, kind of trying to tie together and make more explicit that all of these problems and all of these constraints which are being breached, all of the things that people are becoming aware of, that the body is screaming, hollering for life, just calling and crying out, that some of us are becoming sensitive to. All of it comes down to basically a failure to properly respect the body, to properly navigate our environment. So again, our organs have been harvested and subsequently hollowed out. This is the true cause of the true. This is truly what's caused by alienation, and this is at the root of alienation between mind and body. This participant-based culture, which again has protected us for all this time and got us so far, but we certainly, I believe, are awakening to the lesson that we need to learn, and let's all work together to make something meaningful of this greatest struggle, the greatest and darkest period ever to be experienced by life on Earth. I think we have the ability, we have the means, we have the internet. While this is all still here, before things get too chaotic and disrupted, never mind even the fact that some of the backup and emergency plans of the participant civilization and culture is to certainly remove these avenues and these ways, that these technologies that we have gained to communicate with each other, to put us even further into isolation and alienation from each other. That kind of stuff, I'm sure, certainly has been thought of, certainly in the works. This is why we need technology like Scepter, which cannot be enclosed, cannot be stopped. And as well, we need to take this dashboard offline in more non-technological means and more rudimentary means. This is why I began with the DEC protocol, specifically utilizing the index card protocol. And I guess it doesn't go without saying, but the network has insane advantages over the hierarchy, so to speak, just in the exponential potential for the flow of meaning and information. So even person to person, peer to peer, ideas can spread very, very incredibly rapidly, very fastly, in ways that the hierarchy and its directed media broadcast even cannot keep up with. This is the way of the membership society, is to directly peer with each other. So we have this ability to more directly guide each other. We're not simply utilizing these avenues of computational propaganda, but to interface with the mind, with the alienated mind. But we are able to communicate directly with others, including their body, in not just in other words, not simply interfacing with their mind and with their identity and their prejudices and all the known culture, but rather we are able to reach out in an unalienated way, beyond alienation, utilizing that respect. Again, back to the animistic sort of approach of considering that everything else is alive, that not only our own body we do not know perfectly, and our mind cannot ever know our own body perfectly. So we have to pay attention and careful not to project our reality over it. But also the minds and bodies of others. So, and this is where true peering level of coherence of a relationship comes up, and there is exponential power, a power to this well beyond any simplistic hierarchical low information, high entropy approach. So I'm just trying to paint a picture that doesn't matter where the mind goes in its fear. We do ultimately have an incredible power with the keys to the kingdom, with the Spirit with us, which the world cannot ever hope to have or even come close to touching. And on that note, I am going to take a quick break, hopefully get back into a few more Sorcery of the Spectacle concepts, if I can dive right back into this after my break, and I will catch you then.